So here's one of the most important, powerful, and integratable exercises that you can try. For 2 to 5 seconds, you relax every story in your mind. What does it mean to relax a story? It means not to focus on it. You relax all focus. It's like relaxing all tension. For just 2 to 5 seconds, we relax focusing on something. For a moment we just don't focus on anything. We surrender our focus. We give away our focus. No matter what appears, no matter what my experience is, for 2 to 5 seconds, I or you relax. You relax as you are. You relax and be as you are. That's not a doing, it's a letting go of all doing for 2 to 5 seconds. When you're not focused on anything in particular, when you're not defining anything, to relax means not to define anything for 2 to 5 seconds. What happens when you don't define anything for 2 to 5 seconds is that the isness of life, the as-it-isness of life, the aliveness of life itself, the very fact that you exist, the mystery of being, becomes self-evident. It's like looking into a jewelry shop from the outside in. In the store of the jewelry shop, you see this beautiful piece of jewelry, and it's shiny, and it's gold, and it has a history, and it's made of something, and it's made a particular way, and by a particular designer, and it has a price tag on it. So there's this whole story of the jewelry. There's this whole description, this whole cause and effect, this whole form, shape, names, definitions, anything you can come up with for the jewelry. And that appeals to you. You're interested in the story. You believe that the appearance of the golden jewelry behind the window has something to offer you. It has something of interest to tell you about who you are. And naturally then, you're focused on it, because you're interested in it. What happens if for 2 to 5 seconds, as you're standing in front of that jewelry shop looking from the outside in, through the window, you relax focusing on the jewelry. You just pretend for 2 to 5 seconds that it just doesn't matter what it's made of. It just doesn't matter that there's even jewelry there. You don't care for 2 to 5 seconds. You relax the focus. And suddenly, you notice your own face being reflected in the window. While you were focused on the jewelry and interested in its cause and effect, interested in your definition about the jewelry, you did not notice that in that very same space of being, your own face was reflected in the window. You didn't see yourself, in other words. You didn't recognize yourself. When you relaxed focusing on the jewelry, when you relaxed being interested in it for 2 to 5 seconds, all by itself, your face noticed itself. Your eyes noticed themselves being reflected in the window. Similarly, when we're not focused on our stories, when we're not applying story to our emotions, when we're not defining our circumstances, when we're not describing how we feel and why we feel the way we feel, and when we simply relax all those focus points, we just don't bother, we just don't give a damn for 2 to 5 seconds. We relax, we allow ourselves to relax. What happens naturally is that awareness becomes self-evident, or you could say aliveness, the very fact that we exist, becomes noticeable all by itself, because you could say it is what remains when we're not focused on anything. Then the very fact that we are even able to focus, or that we have awareness, you could say, that we are this aware being, becomes self-evident. When we're really interested in the story of something, then we fail to recognize that. Even though within that story, within that tension, within that focus, we are still that aware being, that freedom itself, that aliveness itself, forming itself as a focal point. So even then, even in the story, as the story, we can recognize existence. We can recognize the very fact that we are. We can recognize life itself, aliveness. We can relax into the story, even. So when we relax for 2 to 5 seconds, again and again, consistently, we befriend this causeless space of being. We get a taste of this aliveness. We get a taste again and again, until we're totally convinced of its total embrace of every experience, its total allowance, its total inclusivity, its total pervasiveness. And it's not an it that's then pervading something else, but it's simply the very fact that we are alive that becomes self-evident. The freedom of being, that causeless bliss, which doesn't necessarily or immediately have to feel like bliss. It's just another word. So this causeless being here becomes self-evident when we stop focusing on things and emotions and thoughts for 2 to 5 seconds, consistently. And what happens? This works its magic beyond the scope of just being 2 to 5 seconds. It works its magic in the sense that it seems to work on your system. It confirms to your entire being that which is always already free, which is this experience exactly as it is, no matter what shape it takes. And we become certain of this freedom, so much so that we don't even need to worry about things anymore. Even when we do worry, when worry arises, we're not really worried about it, because we're so convinced of our freedom. You can do this anywhere. Everybody can do it for 2 to 5 seconds. Simply give it a rest. Hands off. Don't think you know what you should be experiencing for 2 seconds. Don't know anything. Be innocent and causeless, like a curious, fresh baby. In the midst of your pain and your whole depression and your story and your anxiety arising, suddenly know nothing about it. Don't have any judgment about it. For 2 to 5 seconds, stop it. Relax. Relax into the experience. And the isness, the brilliant isness of the experience, not the form, not the name, not the story, but the isness, the aliveness of everything, of every experience, right here, right now. The spontaneity of this moment lights itself on fire. That's why they call it enlightenment. It's brightening up. It becomes self-evident. It shines as itself, as its own perfection. It shines as this moment. When we relax for 2 to 5 seconds, we notice this more and more. And then we find our freedom and well-being not in the story, but in the simple choice to relax as we are, into our present experience. Not away from, but into the experience, exactly as it is. We relax all stories. And we find that our undisturbed nature is still undisturbed, and our freedom is still free, and life is still life. Thank you. Try it. Try it for a couple of weeks. See what happens. See how simple freedom is. It's very, very simple. Love is very, very simple. Relaxation is very, very simple. Anyone can relax for 2 to 5 seconds, again and again.